don't you just love this time of year? We all start to tuck away into what's cozy. In fact, my coziest memories of my life are from holiday times. For me, I actually grew up traveling every Christmas. My mom hosted the Disney parades in Florida. So while it was fun, Christmas morning basically meant 6 a.m. hair and makeup down to the parade route. It wasn't exactly cozy. So when my family and I moved to Pennsylvania, we've now spent every Christmas since hunkered down. We have family in and out, staying over as house guests. We cook, put up a big tree, decorate our home like mad, and just love forging new memories together. A big part of that are our Cozy Earth sheets and jammies. When I think holidays, I think of making the ones I love comfortable in our guest bedroom on our Cozy Earth bamboo sheet set. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set is the ultimate gift this holiday season, elevating everyday luxury into something everyone will use and absolutely adore. It's the gift of unparalleled comfort, making every night feel like a serene escape. And of course, there's also nothing like coming downstairs on Christmas morning in my stretch knit, long sleeve bamboo pajama set. Cozy Earth's pajamas are second to none. They're designed for those cherished moments of relaxation, ensuring you feel cozy and stylish all season long. So, are you still looking for that perfect gift for her? Something she'll actually like and use? Order by December 13th for free shipping. Missed it? It's okay. You can still get expedited shipping until December 20th to ensure it arrives in time. Don't wait though. Head over to cozyearth.com/gratitudeology and use my exclusive 40% off code Jamie40 to give the gift of luxury this holiday season. In the tiny town of Taylorsville, Kentucky, under 1 square mile and home to around 1,200 people, is a sprawling white building with blue trim. Paula Blankenship opens the doors and welcomes in people who have shown up for one of her events there. Most are giddy, chatting away and trying to catch Paula's attention. The one who does, though, is quiet, unassuming. She comes in with her husband, then keeps to herself and plants herself on a stool in the back of the room. Paula goes through the day, engaging with groups who come in and out. They break for lunch, but the woman just sits there all day, enraptured. At the end of the day, the woman finally approaches Paula and quietly apologizes for silently milling about all day. She says she hopes she wasn't at all disruptive, but her story is this. She has stage 4 cancer, and her biggest bucket list goal was seeing Paula live. So her husband brought her here to make it happen. You're probably thinking Paula must be some kind of healer or influencer or rock star. She's none of these things, and yet sort of all of them. You see, Paula sells paint, but what she's built is a community, and it all started in her kitchen. How she did it today on the Gratitudeology podcast.
Fire, would you ride through the storm? Will you walk on a wire? Will you save me if I fall? Will you break through the madness? Set us down where we're safe. I'll be right here waiting till you find me again.
Heirloom Traditions Paint is an all-in-one paint for DIYers. No need for sanding, waxing, or sealing. But it's so much more than a can of paint. The Heirloom Traditions Company store is like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for crafters. Areas showcasing the endless possibilities of paint and imagination. And Paula Blankenship, founder and CEO, is the visionary behind it all. Paula did not grow up dreaming of owning a paint empire. In fact, as a kid in the 60s and 70s, she wanted to get away from having anything to do with home goods.
I was a product of an entrepreneurial mother who never saw or never took no for an answer. She was very business oriented. She was a right brain and left brain, just like me. I never thought she was creative. Looking back, now I see how creative she really, truly was. Her parents were entrepreneurial as well, and they were in the restaurant business. They made a lot of money back in the day. My mother took furniture on trades, and she had a used furniture store. And she put all of this furniture in the used furniture store. She made lifetime customers because of that real smart little move, taking that trade, building a used furniture store so she had new and used, something to offer everyone in that town. My mother sold Gibson instruments, even from a ukulele, she sold those in her store. She sold harmonicas. She sold Sony. She sold Magnavox. She sold Maytag washer and dryers. And of course, she sold upholstery. There were several other furniture stores in town, but couldn't beat how my mother dealt with people. She was very heartfelt. She had building after building. She owned the whole street and both sides of the street. Well, growing up in that mindset, watching my mother make a living, and it took her from me a lot. You know, I wanted them to close the store on the holidays and things like that. And of course they didn't, because she would make sure that on Christmas Eve, her store was open because there were people gift shopping on Christmas Eve. Mm. And I always hated that business because of that. I thought that took her from me. So I grew up kind of a little resentful.
Paula's resentment turned into a bit of rebellion.
My mother, she would beg me to go to school. I would go to school and leave. So I had no desire to go to school. And I would try, but I would miss more than I was there. So finally just quit going at all when I was a senior, unfortunately. And I was not going to graduate anyway. Didn't have enough credits to graduate. It was going to be summer school and all those things, which I knew I was never going to finish. So I said, I'm going to quit. I don't even know that I told her. I think I just quit going. And because I had a car, drove myself to school. She had no idea that I wasn't going. You know, I was a little brat, and she gave me way too much. She gave me cars. She gave me a credit card. She gave me a gas account I could do and buy and go anywhere. I was driving to school in the 8th grade. I had a car. I had a Porsche in the 8th grade. After I quit, she begged me until I took my GED and did at least get a diploma. So I have a GED, and I ended up going to college for a short period of time too.
Paula went to O'Moore School of Design in Franklin, Tennessee.
So I go into the fashion design part of the school. And when I'm in there, I'm like so bored. I'm like, wow, this is not me. Can't do it. I was going to
School just wasn't your thing.
School just was not my thing because I felt like it was busy work. I thought, I'm so far removed from this. I cannot write a paper about some mundane subject that doesn't interest me in the slightest, simply to pass a test. I got to go bootstrap this shit on my own and do my own thing.
Paula always had an entrepreneurial spirit. At 16, she opened a used clothing store. She called it Bargain Bazaar. Of course, she was supposed to be in school when the store was open. Then she designed and sold embellished leather belts to local boutiques. She and her older sister had a clothing store for a few years. She saw a creative project in pretty much everything around her, including some leather scraps she had.
I actually found something of all things in Playboy magazine. Don't even know why I would have had this, but it was a Nigel Peterson piece of art, and it was this face and a champagne bottle that was kind of exploding and all that. And I cut that out of little tiny pieces of leather and sewed that onto a piece of fabric that was for a pattern for a jacket, and I sewed that into a jacket. Then I also found another one that was an Impaglia piece of art that was a man and a woman dancing on this black and white floor, and I cut that from a back of a pattern, a jacket back of this pattern, put it on fabric, and I sewed it down applique. So it was kind of sewing it into leather. It was this puzzle pieces that I put together and made this beautiful piece of art. The jacket was shitty, But the art piece about it was beautiful. I made one for a man and one for a woman.
Now remember, Paula was in Franklin, Tennessee, which is about 20 miles south of
Down on Music Road, down on
Nashville. And Paula thought, or rather, she knew, her leather jackets would be perfect for country singers.
I had a old phone book with the yellow pages, and I am looking up people's phone numbers. So I called Mercury, I called Arista, I called everybody, Sony, trying to get them to see me. Because, record labels don't see you, but they would want, somebody said some valuable piece of info. They said, you need to reach out to a stylist. And these stylists take these artists that would come here and tell us how they're going to look. And, we give them a vague idea. And then they bring these people back to us that are all fixed up, cute, they're marketable. And they said, you need to reach out to this lady named Des Zameek. Called her up and told her I needed to meet her and that I made leather clothing. And I go over, and she's super nice to me. And she tells me that she works for Dan Seal. She worked for the Judds. She worked for different ones. And I show her these two little jackets that I had made, but they weren't perfect by any means. And I remember her peeling up the lining, looking at the interior of this jacket that I made. I was like, oh, hell, this is where the shit falls apart right here. She's going to see how crappy this is made. But the back of that jacket was incredible. And she noticed that. So she says, here's what you need to do, and you need to reach out to these people, and this can help you.
Paula had her sights set on a specific star, an outlaw.
When I die, I may not go to heaven.
I said, Tanya Tucker, by chance? I don't even didn't even follow country music, didn't like country music, but I had one country music album, and it was one that Tanya had made with Glenn Campbell. And for some reason, that one always I liked, and I liked what she had on in that. And I always thought, man, my aesthetic would appeal to her. I just know it would. I know she likes leather, and I know I could do something for this girl. And if I just reach her. And she said, I do. And she gave me a phone number. It, unfortunately, was a number that I'd already called multiple times and left multiple messages on the same answering machine for the number she gave me. So that was kind of dead. So I kind of gave up on the idea, went home for the summer break, really with intentions of never going back. I knew I wasn't going to go back to school. But I went home thinking, well, let me go home and pretend this to my mother that I'm going to go back. Here was my new plan. Every artist that's within driving distance with me, I'm going to drive and show them this stuff. I'm going to go get backstage and show it to them and tell them I'll make them a jacket, right?
It's a Sunday afternoon. Paula is in her car, impatiently waiting for her roommate Joanne to come out of the house so they can embark on her mission.
I look back and she's standing in the door. I had a landline right beside of the door, and I see her with her hand answering the phone. She says, hey, this is for you. I said, who is it? She said, she says it's Tanya Tucker.
Paula doesn't quite believe it, but she swallows her cynicism to go pick up the phone.
She says, hey, this is Tanya Tucker. She said, I am in Cookeville, Tennessee. She said, I'm driving to see you. And I was like, okay. She said, now, it's a Sunday in Oneida, Tennessee. There's nothing open in this town, right? She said, I have a shoot for Spin Magazine in the morning. And she said, a photographer gave me your number. And she said, I need an outfit that I can ride bareback on a horse. And I need a kind of a, something that looks natural. I said, oh, I got you. Okay. She said, well, I'll be there in an hour. So I am like crapping my pants. Like, oh, I've told her to come. I don't know what we're going to do when you get here, but we'll figure it out. So I hang the phone up. I'm in panic mode because I don't have a wealth of leather laying around my house, whatever. And I'm thinking, what do I do here? I ran to Walmart like a mad person because it's already late in the day. They closed at 5. There was not a 24-hour Walmart at this moment. So I thought, automotive department, chamois. I'll go grab those chamois. They had 3 or 4 in a little tube that you dry the car with, those chamois, right? So they smelled terrible, but I buy everything they had, run back home. She's pulling in the driveway. Here she is, little tiny thing, about 5'2", coming to the door. Never would have dreamt. She brought her brother, her sister-in-law, 2 kids, and a dog to my house on a Sunday. So she said, I just got out of Betty Ford Center. And she said, I have a song that is number 1 right now on the radio with a bullet. And it was called Love Me Like You Used to. And she said, and I'm going to be on the cover for my comeback, and I'm going to be riding my horse down in Columbia, Tennessee. And she said, I need something that I can be on this horse. I was like, all right. I said, I have some chamois and we're going to make something. And so she says, I have a trunk load of stuff that is in my car. And she said, I can't wear these things on out in public anymore because they've been worn in public. And she said, I just need to modify them, change them up, whatever. Can you do some of that? I said, sure. Yeah, sure. So I go get the things out of the car in a garbage bag, bring them in. And one is a long kind of a Indian maiden looking dress, very natural and fringe. And it was that beautiful chamois color. And she had worn that several times. And she had a little bandeau bikini made out of suede, and it was animal print. And a few other little treasures I find in here. And I said, is this dress, can we cut this dress? She said, you can do anything you want to it. I said, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the bandeau top, and then we're going to cut that dress and make kind of a shrug type thing to tie here. Took the lower portion and made it tie off the hip. And then she put the top on, and it revealed this beautiful leopard bathing suit top. And I made her earrings out of a hot glue gun and some old metal earrings I had. And get this was the best part. I said something about, we'll make some beautiful earrings out of feathers. It'll be long and beautiful. She said, I've got a ring neck pheasant that I shot. I have that in my car. I was like, no shit.
Stop it right
There's
now.
no way you can have a ring neck pheasant in your car that you just shot. She said, yep, I've been out on somebody's farm and I brought it. I said, why would you bring that? She said, I just thought we might use it. And still had dried flesh hanging off the back of this thing. And it was the piece of that animal. And we used those beautiful feathers in this outfit and on those earrings. And we made that.
To see this whole look, head on over to our Instagram @Gratitudeology. This look started Paula down a path as a celebrity stylist.
From working with Tanya, I started working with Hank Williams Jr.
Okay.
And he'd gone through all kinds of weight loss. And, at the time he was the rebel of the country music industry. So I made things for he and his wife. And both of them restyling their clothes. And I even did some things there that weren't leather. But I focused on leather because it would bring a much higher price point.
Paula spent the next decade on the road with country artists. A dream come true for an artistic free spirit in her 20s. Until she felt a pull toward home.
My sister had her first son. And my mother, of course, was aging. My grandmother was aging. My mother was now taking care of her mother at home. And so her stores weren't open like they used to be. And, I could see them kind of stepping out of the business. And my father was trying to run the stores, which he had zero ability to do. And they were just in decline. And it was kind of sad. So they needed some help. But my mother was totally caught up in taking care of her mother. So I go back and my mother says, why don't you and Sherry get into the floor covering business? That way it's perfect entree to furniture, and people buy floor covering and they want to buy furniture. So that works. I can send you customers. And we were both opposed to it, but we finally decided that's what we wanted to do. We would do it reluctantly.
So Paula was back in her hometown, running a business on Main Street with her sister. She was also newly divorced.
At 28, got married for the first time, and that lasted about 3.5 years, and 2.5 years too long. Married an attorney, and a great guy, just not for me. And I found out that he wasn't the most faithful person there, and that really kind of rocked my world, finding myself single at 31 in that hometown, of that very small pickings as it is. My next shot out of the gate was not so great. So I ended up dating someone, kind of, I don't even know if you want to call it dating. I think that's probably a far stretch. Ended up going out with someone that I'd known from elementary school. And he was an entrepreneurial type guy like myself. And he started helping me in a little business that I had started. And I was making decorative accessories, selling them to wholesale stores through the furniture trade. That was my next venture in my father's chicken house. Started it there, and opened showrooms, had sales reps, and was doing quite well actually. And sold my company to a company in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was going to move there. Well, I found out I wasn't going to move at all because I was pregnant at 32. Found out I was pregnant by this man, and someone I admired greatly, but I also didn't think it was someone I wanted to be married to. He didn't think he could have children. I knew I didn't think I was going to ever have children. I thought I'd already passed that window, and it's not a proud moment for me, but it's the best moment ever.
It is all what made you you, and it feels like those little pieces of leather that were each different and imperfect, but they all came together to make this incredible, beautiful piece of art.
Aren't we all that? Sure.
Aren't we all that? So here you are. You're a single mom.
So a lot of years passed, of course, and I stayed in the retail furniture business. And my sister and I had that floor covering store that we opened, and we'd made a great business there. We started selling paint, of all things. And then across the street in our other store, we had a full-fledged kind of a resort type furniture for people who were building a second home in our town. So we were doing a lot of turnkey cabins. But in 2008, the economy turned off like a water faucet, if you could recall. So my sister and I decided that we're going to split up our business. 2008, I'm going to take the cabin store. There is no one walking in that door. My sister was busy somewhat, but I wasn't at all.
Paula thought she was going to need to close the business. Then, one day, a man from New York walked in.
This little New York guy, typical hair slicked back, a little tattoo on his arm. He's wearing white shoes and shiny white shoes. And he's got his girlfriend with him, and she's walking around in a little pink velour tracksuit, little Louis Vuitton on her arm, and about a 5-carat solitaire on her finger.
The man was a stranger, but with a connection to Paula.
I had decorated a cabin, multiple cabins, for a man that owned a log home business in my town. He'd passed away, and Sotheby's had sold his home there in my hometown, and a man from New York bought it. I don't know who he is. He doesn't know me. He says, I was told you were the designer. You decorated it all. He said, they sold all the furniture, so it's empty. I need you to come help me. Can you do that? I said, sure. Anyway, long story short, I ended up going to work for this guy.
First decorating this cabin, then he asked her to work on a high-rise in Cleveland.
I said, oh, sure. What are we doing? He said, I just need to decorate all the common areas and that kind of thing. I'm going there. I get there. They're all there. All these men are all suited up now. And here I am. How do I fit in this picture, right? So we're walking through, and he's just having me walk behind and walk with them. And he's looking at me, asking me questions. We go into the ladies' rooms, and, every floor had this same ladies' room. And all the tiles were maybe pink or yellow or something horrid. And then the bathroom walls were all that same color and all that. And he said, what would you do in here? Well, these men, all these other men that are around him there were like, well, we can tear this out and rip this out. We can start here and take this down to the studs or whatever. We'll redo it all. You're talking about $50,000 every bathroom. Mm-hmm. I said, well, I wouldn't tear any of it out. I'd paint it. And he said, you'd paint it? I said, yeah. Why would you tear out this tile? It's in perfect shape. You just need to put some paint on this, prime this stuff, and paint it. And so we kept walking around. Next thing you know, we're in another room, and I'm telling him what to do with paint. And he looks at me and he says, I like you. He said, do you know why? I said, why? He said, you're not wasting my damn money.
So I want to back up because I'm noticing this theme of it. It's almost like, see, I don't think it's that things just fell in your lap. I think you magnetically attracted solves into your life at every juncture.
Sure.
That's what
I
feel.
I think you're exactly right.
So, do you feel that that's true? Because it seems like right when you were at like a jumping off point at these different parts in your life, a country music star appears, a billionaire appears, these opportunities appear.
Oh, I see it.
And this is not your mom saving you. This is the universe conspiring in your favor.
Sure.
Why do you think that happened? And do you think that it was manifested?
I think it's beautiful that you notice that. Yes, completely manifested, because now I can see those things so clearly. I can see, if I can see it in my mind's eye, it all happens for me. I always knew, and this sounds crazy when I say this, but I always knew something was going to happen to me beyond my dreams. And I even had people tell me this, other business people, but I thought, most people probably look at me as such a freaking loser. And maybe even my family looks at me as like such a loser, but with so much potential, it's kind of sad. They're probably looking at me like, too bad she didn't apply herself to even graduate, But I always knew that I was dreaming way bigger than these shoes, could fill at that moment. But I knew I was making these moves for something ultimately great. And I took so many courageous steps, leaving my hometown, not knowing a soul. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
it ain't all roses.
As Paula's son became a teenager, she saw more and more of herself in him, for better or for worse.
He never cracked a book. He never brought home any schoolwork. If he did something, it was in a haste. A project's due tomorrow. When you're supposed to read that 10,000-page book over there tonight, that was him. He was just me, identical. So I thought, future failure of the world right here. So I've got to aim this arrow a little higher than I aim my own.
Paula learned of a school in Louisville she thought would be great for her son.
I potentially could get him to a school that might actually help him understand what education means and help him to actually go to college, different than me. So he was excited about it for a minute. Then you realize we had to move there. Now, remember, I am a Tennessee person, born and raised. The state of Kentucky was about 11 miles from our town, but it was the saddest part of Kentucky. Very low income, very, whatever. And they were our rivals. So he hated everything about the state of Kentucky.
He got into the school. She found the money to send him there. And so her mind was made up. They'd move to Louisville.
He was so mad at me. And he was telling my sister that I was a terrible mother and laying his head in my lap and crying and begging me to take him home. And I finally just looked at him and said, listen, one day you're going to thank me. I said, I am the captain of this boat and you're a passenger on it. And all I can tell you is I'm steering this one. And one day you'll steer your own, but one day you'll look back and you'll realize how hard this was for me to do. And we're going to power through this. I was heartbroken about doing it. It was hard to see my son cry and beg to go home. And I wanted, in my own mind, to go home too. I wanted to go home to my comfort zone.
Meanwhile, Paula was still working with the man from New York. He was a tough client, but she had a way with him. Paula would travel to his properties during the week, then spend weekends with her son.
I've hired a nanny to take care of my son, and she's doing a great job, and everything's working out wonderful on that side. But when I'm home, I'm not spending the time I need FaceTime with my son. We don't have a lot to talk about, so I think, what I need to do is maybe create a little business, a little something entrepreneurial for him. I knew I wanted to do something online because I felt like that was where things were headed. So I thought I'll have this online business. I'll still work in New York, just like I'm doing. And I'll make this little online business and create a website because this was, websites were out there, but everybody didn't have a website at this moment, or especially an e-commerce website.
Paula's plan was to buy knockdown furniture. You might know it as flat pack. She'd paint the furniture according to the customer selection from a 50-color paint card, then pack it back up and ship it off.
I was painting the parts, basically. That was my idea. And never dreaming I was going to the paint business, by the way. So as I put this color card onto my Facebook page, and a girl from my hometown says to me, hey, is that paint? Can I buy some? So I said, do you sell paint? She said, no, but I have a booth in an antique mall here in my hometown. And I said, all right, well, sure, I'd sell you some paint. So I'm thinking in my mind, I've got to, if I'm going to do this, I'll have to have paint. Maybe am I going to buy it retail? Or maybe I'll get a paint line. I'll make my own paint here. Maybe that's the way to do it. Never dreaming again selling paint. It was always tied to the furniture piece.
Paula and the woman make a deal for an opening order. Now, all Paula had to do was, everything.
Craig and I had just moved in together. He was leaving to go on a trip out west, back to Seattle or wherever. And I remember him leaving me that day. As he tells me bye, I said, well, when you get back, I'll have this paint thing worked out. I'm going to have a line of paint, be working on that. And he laughed, and I thought, dude, this guy don't know me at all.
This guy, by the way, would become her husband and president of her company.
And when he gave me that little smirk, I thought, that's just enough fuel to make this shit happen. Paula's going to get busy. So he clears the door. I've already Googled paint manufacturer, Louisville, Kentucky. All of a sudden, damn, it dawned on me. When my sister and I sold paint on Main Street in Oneida, we used to pay the invoice to a company in Louisville, Kentucky. So I thought, oh shit, I remember this now, Gray Seal. So I look up Gray Seal Paint, Louisville, Kentucky, and it says company is sold to a company called California Coatings in California. So they have a phone number. I call them. And the lady answers the phone, nice as pie. And I said, hey, listen, I'm calling about Gray Seal Paint. I understand you all bought them and whatever. She said, yes, we did. And so nice. And before I hang up, she says, oh, by the way, she said, we can't help you. But she said, there is a small part of that business, still the family-owned business there in Louisville called Lanning Chemical. And you should call them. So I dial up this phone number in Louisville there, and a man answers the phone, and I could tell it was a young guy. And I tell him who I am. I said, I called out to California Coatings and gave me your number. And I said, ironically, I used to sell a brand called Gray Seal. And he said, and a guy used to call on me, the sales rep was named Charles, and he wore taps on his shoes, literally taps, like tap dancer, taps on his shoes. And this man replies to me, I'll be darned. He said, that is my dad's best friend, Charles. And he said, why don't you come down and meet us? I was like, here we go. There's another one of these serendipitous moments.
Paula brought a sample can of paint, explaining she wanted to create her own palette of paint that didn't require sanding or polishing.
He takes the lid off. He goes, he smells it. He's like, sure, we can make that. He said, you got a nose like mine. You've smelled enough paint resin. You know what's in it. I said, oh, really? That's all you do? He said, yeah. He said, that's just flattened off house paint. I said, oh, okay. All right. So I leave, and I leave him that can of paint, which they still have today, and they won't give it back to me.
2 weeks later, she gets a phone call.
Hey, Paula, we've taken your paint we made out to our store on Shelbyville Road. You can go out there and have it tinted off in the colors you want. My brother Brad will help you. I go out there, and there's the paint, all three bases, the pastel base, the mid-tone base, and the deep base. Now I can have it made in all these colors on that card I made, right? For Charlotte, for the girl that's going to buy it from me. So now I can get her order together. So I do. And I print the labels off. Craig has not gotten home yet because he's now on another trip, right? He knows this stuff's in process, but he still don't quite believe what I'm doing. I remember him returning home on that weekend when he came home, and we were printing there, trying to print off the labels for the wraparound part. I'm gluing with a glue stick. I'd made this beautiful little logo that looks very much like it looks today. And I was dabbing my finger in the paint to touch the top so you could see what color that it was in the can. I carried all that down to Charlotte. She put it in her little store. She pays me, and I apologize for taking her money. I said, if you can't sell this shit, I'll buy it back from you. Just know that. You just try it. If it don't work, whatever. 2 weeks later, she calls me and says, hey, I need to place a reorder, $258 reorder. And I said, for what? She said, I am selling this paint like hotcakes. I said, really? She said, yeah, people love it. She said, I call it Paula's paint.
Well, because it really does seem like every time you've had an opportunity, it's been somebody like a Tanya Tucker showing up and being like, can you make this thing? And you're like, sure, I've got
give me a minute.
2 safety pins and a box of tissue.
That's exactly how
and
it
you just figure it out.
That's right. She sends me a picture of her retail booth. Now I'm thinking she's got this big booth in my mind, 20 feet by 40 feet, big booth. She sends me a 10 by 10 little booth space, and she has made the first display. Her father made the first display of my paint, and it was in what she called a jelly cabinet. It was made out of barn lumber, and it had a crossbuck saw across the top. It's like a 2-person saw, old-fashioned saw on the wall above it. And here in this jelly cabinet that had chicken wire, no glass, chicken wire over it. That was where my first display was, right there in her store.
And here's what I love about the whole story. Spoiler alert, this little cabinet full of paint, locally sourced, is about to become a $100 million valuation business, right? Is where we stand today. Now, the in-between on that, one of the things I love the most about you, Paula, and that's so interesting to me about your business is how you've used social media and how you've not been intimidated by social media. So if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
61.
61. So you obviously didn't grow up with social media,
not at
right?
all.
And many people, they use it as a cop-out. Oh, I don't like doing that. I hate this whole social media movement.
Sure.
You immediately understood that by sharing with your community and by teaching them, because this one woman didn't know how to use the paint.
Oh,
right?
No idea.
And you were like, oh, okay, then part of this business is I build community and I teach you how to use it,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Here's what I want people to understand. Lest they think that you just started this little paint company and then it's kind of scaled and you had a retail channel strategy and yada, yada. What is your following, your community?
On Facebook, it's over 1 million.
Over 1 million on Facebook.
It's 1.5 million on Facebook.
Right.
And then we're, I don't know, all together, but we have a huge mailing list and a huge
Right.
text list, about 7 million people that we touch organically.
Okay.
Could never have done that in any other fashion other than social media, period. in
Yeah,
this
but
world.
other brands try to do social media as well and they don't gain a following of 1 million, right? They
I
just
know,
have
they
brand
don't.
pages. So
They
what
do.
is it about you? What was the magic spark? What was the tipping point of success?
You know, I don't know that I understood that for a lot of years until now. And here's why I believe that we've been successful online. I look at our leaders in the industry and they post perfection. They continue to beat the drum for beautiful rooms, perfect furniture, perfect non-lived in looking spaces and all those things. There's no person attached to that. We were told early on that that was a negative, that if you attached yourself to the brand and then people don't like you, they're not going to like your brand and all the things. So there's a yin and a yang to that. So I found early on, first of all, there was only me running the business, and I was the only person who could get in front of the camera. I didn't have a team of people I could hire to be anonymous. I had to be me. But I learned early on that people were gravitating to me for a reason, and I still couldn't put my finger on it until as of the last few years. I think it's because I tell the things that are not necessarily perfect about me too. And I just be me. Good, better, best. I talk like me. I say words that are stupid, whatever. I don't have the best language skills. I don't try to perfect that and be something polished that I'm not. I just speak like I speak. I don't try to make my accent go away because it's not going anywhere. I just try to be me. And I think people realize on the other side that I am not trying to be a perfect version of me. And I think that is relatable to more people than this other side.
Paula doesn't just provide paint. She gives people the confidence to use it on their own terms. And eventually, she decided to make the paint even easier to use.
I learned that this was going to fail if people couldn't teach it or wouldn't teach it like it needed to be taught.
Right.
I knew then I had to get a simpler message and make a product. So it took me about 2 years to actually formulate. I found a chemist in North Carolina, and I set out on a journey that I couldn't afford at the time, but I spent the money anyway. And I said I needed a paint that didn't require any sanding, that would bond to anything. I wanted it to not require a top coat. I wanted it to work inside and outside. And I also wanted to paint smooth fabrics and leather. He said, "You don't want much, do you?"
Paula had done her research. She knew resin technology was advancing, making them more pliable. And sure enough, after a while, she had her all-in-one paint. She was so confident in her product that she started what she says is her biggest customer acquisition technique: giving away free samples.
They don't have to believe me. They can try it. And then if they love it, guess what? They love to tell it. They love to talk about it. It cost us millions of dollars to try it, but we did it. And it was the best thing ever because people that were skeptical got to paint their front door or their vanity or something like that. After they finished, they could not wait to go tell people how this has held up, how well it's performed.
Some even end up turning their projects into side hustles or even full-time jobs. Alyssa Hahn started out painting a desk for her daughter and now has her own online shop. You can check it out in the show notes. Here's Alyssa.
She has a way with her product and her tutorials in building your own self-confidence. I got that first free sample that their company offers and did my bathroom vanity from my bedroom. And then that boosted my confidence and I wanted to do the hall bathroom, did that vanity, and then it snowballed to the whole kitchen. And from there, I actually started doing furniture and makeovers of furniture to sell. Client-owned furniture and things that I found on my own to redo and sell. And so it allowed me this tremendous flexibility to work from home, but also be fully present for my family, which I really had a desire for. And it was an unforeseen source of provision that I didn't plan on, and I'm grateful for.
Virginia Diaz came for the DIY and stayed for the friendship and community.
We learn from each other because that's what we have to do, baby steps. So you do a project and you share it and how you made it. And that's what we'll all do. And we ask questions because they already had the experience. I advise many people in her community, like I receive advice from most of them. So that's the way we learn. So she make us part of it. She's like the teacher. She tell us how to do it, and then we use our own creation. And she inspires me because she failed, made mistakes, and comes back again. Just bounce back. That's what we all do in life.
Paula has said she's just here to enjoy the ride. And for her, that means getting a little uncomfortable, pushing her own boundaries. And yet, she manages to emit a radiant energy everywhere she goes, through all of her highs and lows. And she says she has gratitude to thank for that.
I am very grateful for where I am today, and I'm very grateful for my past because it does make me strong, and I know I can come through anything because I am the one who screwed up most of my early days. It was choices I made, and we all are products of the choices that we make, good, better, best. But I also realize that a lot of those things were just kind of stepping stones to get me where I am today. But I look back at all of that with pure gratitude and just with my parents and my mother and, just the things that she taught me. I look back and think, wow, thank God I had that, thank God I had that person who raised me to be resilient and also to be happy. I don't wait for anyone to make me happy. I'm happy to be doing something I'm excited about doing every day. And even though there's always some ugly things every day that you could look at and build your life around that, I've got so many great things that I say, that's just another hill for a climber. I don't need to think about that. Let's get over that hump and move on to the best. You're going to face people every day that are negative about your brand, negative about your business, whatever. But I don't choose to see those things. I want to look for the good. I'm looking for the sun. I don't look for the clouds. I look for the sunny day.
That sunshiny personality has attracted an entire magnificent life to you. And I'm just so happy for you. And I can't wait to see where you go next.
Well, I don't know where I'm headed next, but I'm excited to embrace it and see what it takes to get there. I know it's going to be a hustle, whatever it is. It gets a little harder as you get older too,
yeah.
But I'm excited about the future for sure.
Paula Blankenship, if you can start $100 million business from your kitchen, I'm pretty sure there's no stopping you. For more, check out Paula's book, My Colorful Life, How a Single Mother Painted Her Way to Success. And you can follow her on Instagram and Facebook at Heirloom Traditions Paint. Thank you so much, Paula, for letting us into your colorful life. That's all for today. Remember, if you like what you heard, if it impacted you in any way, and if you think it's a message other people in your life might like to hear, I'd be so grateful if you'd give me 5 stars, leave a quick little comment. Those things really help. And share this podcast with your friends, either on social media or just word of mouth. I'm on a mission for us all to help each other focus on expanding our attention towards what's good in the world rather than focusing on what's bad, one person at a time. If we all did that, even to our own little sphere of influence, the world has the potential to be a much more radically awesome place. Stick with me, friends. I've got your back. We're in this together, and it's a great day to see the greatness in the day. See you next time. The Gratitudeology podcast is written, executive produced, and hosted by me, Jamie Hess. Sound design and studio production by Gotham Production Studios. Our theme song is Maze by Hills, sung by Nadia Ali. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Gratitudeology.
Set us down where we're safe. I'll be right here waiting till you